Thanks for updating the pickup access. We were squeezed around a kid-sized round table in the school library, the kind with tiny chairs that make adults sit too straight. I stared at his signature on the form while the other parents went quiet. Nobody laughed it off. Nobody asked what she meant. A chair leg scraped once, then stopped. Someone's water bottle rolled a half-inch and tapped the table, soft, like an accident that wanted to apologize. My husband Ryan didn't look at me. He just kept his pen in his hand, like he'd been expecting to use it again. Miss Dorsey, our child's teacher, held the paper with 2 fingers. Not like it mattered, like it was already decided. She set it on the table, closer to Ryan than to me. Then she smiled at the rest of the group, the smile you use when you're trying to keep a meeting moving. "Okay," she said, clapping her hands once. "So, quick updates on classroom behavior and then we'll do questions." 85. The other parents looked down at their folders. A couple of them looked at me and then away fast, like they'd accidentally opened the wrong door. I kept my hands on my lap. My phone was face down on the table, my nails pressed into the fabric of my jeans. Miss Dorsey flipped to the next sheet, but her eyes kept landing on Ryan, not me. "Ryan, can you tell me if you're still good with Thursdays for reading volunteers?" she asked. He didn't even blink. "Yeah, Thursdays are fine. 2 and 2 that, Eddie." She nodded, writing it down. I cleared my throat. Small. It sounded loud anyway. Miss Dorsey's marker paused, just long enough to acknowledge I'd made a noise, then kept going. "Perfect, and I'll send the link again tonight." I tried again, quieter. The door at the back of the library opened, and an assistant principal stepped in with a clipboard and a lanyard dangling from her fingers. "Mr. Carter?" she called. Ryan's head turned immediately. "Yes?" he said, standing up like his name had been called at a doctor's office. The assistant principal didn't look at me. She didn't look at any of us. She held the clipboard out, angled toward him, and the laminated tag on the lanyard swung once, then settled. It was a stiff little rectangle, school logo on top, a barcode underneath. The kind of thing that gets you waved through without a conversation. "Just need your initials," she said. Ryan took the clipboard. His hand moved like it was familiar. 2 quick strokes with the pen. No hesitation. No, "let me check." The tag kept swinging lightly, tapping the clipboard. Tap, tap, tap. Miss Dorsey kept talking over it. "We'll do the winter party sign-up next week. Please don't send homemade treats unless they're packaged with ingredients listed." The assistant principal waited until Ryan finished. Then she clipped the lanyard around his wrist like it belonged there. "Thanks," she said, already stepping backward. "You're all set." Ryan sat back down. He didn't put the tag on the table. He let it hang against his leg, the plastic edge knocking his knee once. I watched his hand slide the original paper, my child's paper, back into the folder. He tapped the folder shut with 2 fingers, light. "Final." Miss Dorsey asked the room. "Any questions?" A dad across from me raised his hand about homework. A mom next to me asked about the class photo. I kept my mouth closed because my voice didn't feel like it belonged in the room anymore. Ryan leaned toward me just enough that only I could hear. "Don't do this here," he said. His eyes stayed on the table when he said it, like he was talking to the folder, not to me. The laminated tag bumped his knee again when he shifted, and the sound was stupidly normal. Like keys. Like routine. Miss Dorsey started packing up, stacking papers, tapping them straight against the table edge. The assistant principal reappeared at the door, glanced at Ryan, and nodded once, like they had already agreed on the next step. Ryan stood, slid the folder under his arm, and followed her out without looking back. I sat there with my hands still in my lap, watching the empty space he left behind. By the time I got to the parking lot, the school app had stopped talking to me. No ping, no meeting summary, no volunteer link. Just a blank screen that kept loading like it was waiting for permission. Ryan was already halfway to his car. The folder was under his arm, tight like a briefcase. The laminated pickup tag hung from his wrist and clicked against his watch every few steps. "Ryan?" I said. He didn't stop. He just angled his head like he'd heard me and didn't plan to answer. I unlocked my phone again, thumb shaking just enough that I hit the wrong icon. I corrected it, opened the parent portal, logged in. The contacts tab was there, but when I tapped it, my name didn't appear the way it always did. Instead, it showed one line under Authorized Pickup, Ryan Carter. No, also, no, and just him. I stood beside my car with the door half open, staring at the tiny letters like they were a mistake that would fix itself if I blinked hard enough. "Hey!" I called again, louder. He finally stopped and turned. His face was calm in the way that makes your skin go cold, like he'd already rehearsed this moment. "What?" he asked. I held my phone out. "Why is it only you?" He glanced at the screen for half a second, didn't take it, didn't lean in. "It's just a routine update," he said. "Routine. Like oil changes. Like trash day. Like you didn't need to tell the other parent you'd changed the locks." "Routine for who?" I asked. He exhaled through his nose, not a sigh, more like a warning. "Not here," he said, and he nodded toward the building like the walls had ears. Then he opened his car door. I didn't follow him. I walked back inside. The front office smelled like copier toner and hand sanitizer. A glass window cut the room in half, staff on one side, parents on the other like a bank, except the currency was your kid. A little bell sat on the counter. I pressed it once. A woman in a navy cardigan slid closer behind the glass without looking up from her screen. "Hi," I said. My voice came out too polite. "I need to check the pickup authorization for my child." Her fingers paused on the keyboard. "Student name?" I told her. She clicked again. Her eyes flicked left, towards something on her monitor, and then back to me like she'd decided what I was. "Okay," she said. "So we only have one authorized parent on file right now." My mouth went dry in a way that made swallowing feel loud. "One," I repeated. "Yes, ma'am." Her voice stayed flat, practiced. "Mr. Carter." I put my phone on the counter, screen up, like it could testify for me. "I'm the mom," I said. "I've been doing pickup. I did pickup yesterday." She didn't argue. She didn't apologize either. She reached down out of sight and pulled up a printed form. The paper was creased like it had been handled and put back. She held it up behind the glass. A school header at the top, a section that said Authorized Pickup, Release. A name printed in neat block letters, Ryan Carter. And beneath it, where there should have been another line, nothing. No second name. No initials. No updated by. Just his signature at the bottom, sharp and familiar, like a flourish. "I didn't sign that," I said. The woman's face stayed neutral. "This is what's in the file," she replied. "If you want changes, the authorized parent has to submit them." "The authorized parent," I echoed, and the words landed wrong in my mouth. Behind me, someone's stroller wheels squeaked. A dad shifted his weight and stared at a bulletin board like he was suddenly fascinated by school lunch menus. I kept my hands on the counter so they wouldn't shake. "So you're saying," I said slowly, "I can't pick up my own child?" She looked past me, toward the hall. "I'm saying," she answered, "we follow what's on record." I turned my head just enough to see the doorway to the main hallway. Ryan was there, not inside the office, not outside, just standing where he could see me through the glass, like he'd been waiting for this exact sentence. He lifted his phone to his ear, even though I hadn't heard it ring. And with his mouth barely moving, I saw him say it again. "Routine update." I stared back at him through the window, and for the first time, the question shifted. If he could change this, what else had he already changed? The next morning, I drove like nothing had happened. That was the lie I told my hands on the steering wheel, that if I could keep the routine would keep me. The school's drop-off lane curved past the front office windows, the same glass that had turned me into a visitor the day before. Frost clung to the edges of the panes, catching the early sun like a thin, pretty warning. Ryan's car was already there. Of course it was. He had angled into a spot near the curb, hazards blinking, like he belonged to the system now. Like the system blinked back. Our child's backpack sat upright on the seat beside him. He had packed it. I could tell by the way the zipper tabs were perfectly aligned, the way the lunchbox handle looped through one strap like an afterthought made intentional. I pulled in behind him, heart knocking once, hard. The crossing guard lifted a hand. "Morning, Mr. Carter." Ryan waved without looking over his shoulder. "Morning," he called back, warm, casual, like nothing in the world had shifted. I got out on my side, walking around my car with our child's jacket draped over my arm. My steps sounded too loud on the pavement. The guard didn't look at me. Two teachers stood by the doors, greeting kids by name. One of them, Miss Klein, spotted Ryan and smiled like she'd been waiting for him. "Hi, Ryan," she said. "We'll take it from here." She said it the way people say, "Don't worry, we've got it," but her hand was already reaching for my child's backpack. Our child climbed out of Ryan's car. Then paused. Eyes flicked to me. I knelt to zip the jacket and our child leaned in automatically, like muscle memory. For 1 second, it felt normal enough to hurt. "Can I do the hug?" Our child whispered. "Always," I said, and pulled them close. Over their shoulder, I saw Ryan watching from the driver's seat, expression blank. Not angry, not smug, just, sure. Miss Klein kept her smile, but her attention was on Ryan, waiting for whatever cue he gave. Our child stepped back and smoothed the front of their jacket. Then, in a voice too rehearsed for 7 years old, they said, "School rules say Daddy does pick up now." The sentence hit me like a slap you can't react to in public. "What?" I asked softly. Our child shrugged the way kids do when something is bigger than them. "That's what Daddy said. It's just school rules." Just school rules. The same phrase as yesterday, only smaller, put in a child's mouth like a mouthpiece. I straightened, looking at Ryan. He finally met my eyes. "Don't," he mouthed. "Not don't what, not please, just a flat command." Miss Klein clapped her hands once. "Okay, friend, let's go." My child followed her toward the doors without looking back. I stood there long enough for the air to sting my throat. Then I walked inside. The front office was already busy, parents signing forms, a kid crying quietly against a mother's hip, the copier whirring behind the wall. The bell on the counter looked the same. I pressed it anyway. The same woman from yesterday slid over behind the glass. Navy cardigan, neutral face. "Yes?" she asked. "I need to add myself back to my child's pickup authorization," I said, keeping my voice level. "I'm a parent. I have always been on file." Her fingers moved over the keyboard like she was opening a record that had already made its decision about me. She said, not agreeing, just acknowledging sound. Then, "We can give you the form." Relief tried to rise in my chest. And then, "But," she added, "it has to be submitted by the authorized parent." I blinked. "I am a parent." She lifted her eyes. For the first time, there was something in them that wasn't neutral annoyance, maybe, at being asked to step outside the script. "Ma'am," she said carefully, "I'm not debating that with you. I'm telling you what our record says. I have a now." She reached down and slid a packet under the slot at the bottom of the window. The paper landed with a soft slap on the counter. At the top, in bold, "Authorized pickup, release update request." Below it, a section titled Primary Contact with a single printed name already filled in. Ryan Carter. My name wasn't even in the additional contacts section, like I had never existed in the file at all. "Okay," I said, though my mouth didn't feel connected to the word. "So if I fill this out, it still needs his signature," she cut in. I stared at her through the glass, trying to see if there was any crack in the system that would let a mother be heard. "You're telling me," I said slowly, "that the only way I can be allowed to pick up my own child is if my husband agrees." She didn't flinch. "Those are the procedures," she replied, and the phrase sounded like a door closing. Behind me, the copier spat out a sheet. A teacher laughed at something by the hallway. Normal sounds, normal day built on something that wasn't normal at all. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. "Stop going to the office. You're making it harder. It's just a routine update." Routine update. I looked down at the packet on the counter. My hands hovered over it like touching it would make it official. Then I noticed the small print near the bottom. "Changes may take 24-48 hours to process." In the corner, a timestamp printed automatically by the system. Yesterday's date. Mid-morning. While I was at work. While I thought we were both just living our lives. I lifted my gaze to the glass window again. To the woman behind it. To the hallway beyond, where the school kept moving like nothing had changed. And it hit me with a cold clarity that made my teeth ache. They weren't treating me like someone who needed help. They were treating me like someone who didn't belong. By lunchtime, I had rewritten the same email 3 times. First draft, angry. Second, pleading. Third, so calm it didn't sound like me. I sent the third. Subject, parent contact plus pickup authorization. 2, Miss Dorsey. Body, "Hi, Miss Dorsey. I'm not receiving school notifications, and I'm currently not listed for pickup on the record. Can you please confirm who is listed as contacts for my child and how I can be added back? Thank you." I stared at the sent line like it should do something more than sit there. 10 minutes passed. then 20. At 12:43, my phone buzzed. Not an email, not the school app, just a text. Ryan. Already handled. Stop emailing them. I didn't answer. I refreshed my inbox again. Nothing. At 1:05, a reply finally appeared, except it wasn't to me. It was a notification that made my stomach drop in a slow, ugly way. You were removed from this conversation. Just that. A clean system line. No explanation. No apology. No option to rejoin. Like being deleted was as normal as correcting a typo. I sat there with my laptop open, watching the little banner, and tried to breathe through the feeling that I had just watched a door lock from the other side. I called the school. The front office picked up on the third ring. Front office, this is... Hi, I said. I'm trying to reach Miss Dorsey or the school counselor. I'm not receiving messages about my child and I need to be added back as a contact. There was a pause that sounded like someone covering the receiver and checking a script. One moment, she said. Hold music. A tinny piano version of something cheerful. Then another voice came on soft, careful, too practiced to be accidental. This is Miss Halvorsen, she said. School counselor. Hi, I repeated, like the word could build a bridge. I'm my child's mother. I'm currently not listed for pickup, and I'm also being removed from communication. I need to know what's going on. Another pause. Not confusion. Recognition. Okay, she said gently. We've been following the updated plan. My throat tightened. What plan? The safety and transition plan, she said, like we'd discussed it together over coffee. It's in place, so everyone stays consistent. I gripped the edge of my desk hard enough to feel the wood under my nails. I have never seen a safety plan, I said. I have never agreed to a safety plan. Her voice stayed calm, the way people stay calm when they think you're proving their point. Dad shared some concerns, she said, and we documented the best approach for pickup and communication. Dad, not both parents. Not your family. Dad. What concerns? I asked. She hesitated. Just long enough. Transitions, she said. Inconsistency, heightened emotions at dismissal. My mouth went dry. I had never raised my voice at dismissal. I had never caused a scene at pickup. I had never even asked for more than a minute of a teacher's time. But I could hear the shape of the story she was describing, and I could hear how easily it fit into people's minds when told by the right person. I want a copy, I said, of everything you have documented. We can provide what's appropriate, she replied, still soft. Still careful. But we do need to follow what's on record. Areas. On record, I repeated. Yes, she said, and right now your child's file lists one primary contact. I closed my eyes. Of course it did. Okay, I said, keeping my voice steady by force. Then please tell me who authorized removing me from emails, because I got a notice that I was removed from a conversation with my child's teacher. There was a click keyboard, the sound of someone looking at a screen. I'm seeing an ongoing thread, she said slowly, and it looks like it's being managed through Dad. Managed. Like I was a problem to be handled. Can you forward me the thread? I asked. She started, then stopped. Then, like she'd already decided it would be easier to give me something than to keep saying no, she said, I can send you a summary. A summary is not the thread, I said. Silence. In the silence, I heard myself breathe. I heard the faint school noise in the background, kids, footsteps, a door closing. Then Miss Halvorsen spoke again, and this time her tone changed just a fraction. Less gentle, more administrative. Can you come in tomorrow morning? She asked. We can review what we have on file with you, within procedures. Procedures. There it was again. The word that made everything feel legal without actually explaining anything. Tomorrow? I said. Yes. When I hung up, my inbox refreshed by itself. A new email popped in. From Miss Dorsey. No greeting. No warmth. Just a forward header and a chunk of text beneath it like something she hadn't meant for me to see, slipped through a crack. I didn't read the whole thing at first. My eyes went straight to a line in the middle. Per Dad's request, we will follow the updated pickup list effective immediately. Please do not release the student to anyone not listed. Below that, another line shorter. Colder. Dad expressed concerns about Mom's reliability at dismissal. Reliability. I stared at the word until it stopped looking like English. Then I saw the CC list. Teacher, counselor, assistant principal. and only one parent email. Ryan's. My hands went numb around my phone, because this wasn't one form. This wasn't one routine update. This was a room I hadn't known existed, full of adults making decisions about me, and my husband had been in it alone. I showed up the next morning 10 minutes early. Not because I believed early would earn me anything, just because I couldn't stand the idea of being late to a meeting about my own child. The front office lights were still too bright for the hour, the kind of fluorescent that makes everyone look guilty. The glass window was spotless, reflecting me back at myself like a reminder, you are the one outside. A stack of visitor stickers sat in a neat fan on the counter. I pressed the bell. The woman in the navy cardigan glanced up, then down, then slid a clipboard under the slot. Sign in, she said. On the paper, I saw Ryan's name already there. Same day. Same morning. Time stamped, 7:42 a.m. He had been here before I even pulled into the parking lot. Who is the meeting with? I asked, keeping my voice calm by force. She didn't look at my face when she answered. Counselor. Assistant principal. Possibly principal, if she's available. Possibly. Like principal was weather. I wrote my name, wrote the time, and the pen felt too light in my hand, like it wasn't meant to count. The navy cardigan woman tore a sticker off the roll and slid it to me. It didn't say mom. It didn't say parent. It said visitor in blue block letters. I stuck it on my sweater anyway. Have a seat, she said. The waiting area chairs were arranged along a wall under a bulletin board titled, We Love Our Families, with paper hearts around it. Someone had cut the hearts uneven, little jagged edges like the scissors were dull. I sat. A minute later, the assistant principal, Miss Kershaw, the one with the clipboard, stepped out of the hallway and called, Mr. Carter? She didn't say Mr. and Mrs. Just his name. Ryan emerged from around the corner like he'd been standing nearby the whole time. He had a folder tucked under his arm, thicker than the one from the library meeting, the edges of papers inside pressed hard enough to bow the cover. He smiled at Miss Kershaw. Not a big smile. The kind that says we understand each other. Morning, he said. Good morning, she replied, and her whole posture softened like a rope had slackened. Right this way. They walked past me without stopping. Ryan didn't look at my visitor sticker. He didn't look at my face. He walked like he was late to something he owned. I stood, because I couldn't sit there like a person waiting for permission to enter my own child's life. Excuse me, I said, stepping forward. I'm here for the meeting too. Miss Kershaw paused as if the sound had surprised her. Then she turned halfway, eyes flicking to the sticker on my chest before they landed on mine. Yes, she said, polite enough to be cold. We'll bring you back shortly. We're just going to start with Dad, Ryan finished for her, still not looking at me. It was said like a favor, like he was helping them keep things smooth. Why would you start without me? I asked. Miss Kershaw pressed her lips together. We have to follow what's on record. On record. The phrase again, like a stamp. And what's on record? I asked. Ryan finally glanced at me, then quick, sharp. His eyes were warning lights. It's just a routine update, he said. Don't do this. I tasted metal behind my teeth. Don't do what? Ask to be included? Miss Kershaw stepped a fraction closer to Ryan, physically closer, like the body knows who it's siding with before the mind admits it. Ma'am, she said, voice lowered, the way people lower their voice when they think you're volatile. We can discuss all of that in the room. But we do need to start with the primary contact to review the current plan. End quote. The current plan, I repeated, and even my own voice sounded strange. Ryan shifted the folder higher against his ribs. Paper edges flashed tabs, maybe, labels. He had come prepared. For something I hadn't even been allowed to see. Fine, I said. Bring me back now. Miss Kershaw's eyes slid toward the navy cardigan woman, like they were silently coordinating how to handle me. Please have a seat, Miss Kershaw repeated. It won't be long. End quote. Then she turned and walked down the hallway with Ryan, the visitor badge on my chest, suddenly feeling like a joke someone else was laughing at. I sat back down, but my legs started bouncing anyway. The paper hearts above me fluttered slightly when the air vent kicked on, like the wall was breathing. From behind the closed hallway door, I could hear muffled voices. Not clear words, just cadence. Ryan's voice, low and steady. Another adult's voice, lighter, asking questions. Then a laugh, small, quick, like this was just a meeting. Like this was a normal day. My phone buzzed on my thigh. A new email. From School Counseling Office. Subject: Meeting Notes. Safety and Transition Plan Draft. My finger hovered over it. Then, before I could tap it open, the navy cardigan woman's voice cut through the waiting room. "Ma'am?" she called. I looked up. She held a thin stack of paper in her hand, pinched at the top like it was something unpleasant. "This is what we can release to you," she said. I stood and walked to the counter. Behind the glass, she slid the pages under the slot. At the top, in small print, there was a line I hadn't seen before. Guidance provided pursuant to custody-related instructions on file. Custody-related. I looked up. "What instructions?" She didn't answer the question. She just said, "You can review those while you wait." While I wait. Like this was a dentist appointment. I stared down at the line again. Custody-related instructions on file. And the coldest thought I'd had yet settled into place with perfect, awful calm. If the school had instructions, then someone had given them something. Something in writing. Something they believed. Something that made them comfortable starting without me. I lifted my gaze toward the closed hallway door. And I knew, without needing anyone to say it out loud, whatever was inside Ryan's folder was the reason my name had disappeared. I didn't read the draft in the waiting room. Not all the way. I read the parts that were meant to sound neutral and felt anything but. Transitions should remain consistent. Communication should be streamlined to the primary contact. Dismissal should be low conflict. Low conflict. Like I was a weather event they were trying to schedule around. I took out my phone and opened the parent portal again. The screen loaded slow, like it resented me. I tapped contacts. My name still wasn't there. I tapped permissions. A new label sat beside my profile like a bruise. View only. Below it. Smaller. Notifications off. I held my breath and took a screenshot. Then another, when the page scrolled and showed the date of the last update. Yesterday. Mid-morning. I took that screenshot too. A woman coughed behind me. The waiting room clock ticked too loudly. Above it, a poster said, "Attendance matters," in bubble letters. My phone buzzed. Ryan again. "If you go down there again today, you're going to make pickup a problem. Don't." "It's just a routine update." Routine update. He used the phrase, "like a blanket." Like if he kept saying it, it would stop being a weapon. I stood and walked back to the counter. The navy cardigan woman looked up with a sigh already in her face, like she'd been waiting for me to become difficult. "I need copies," I said, calm enough that my voice sounded like someone else's, "of every form on file related to pickup, contacts, and communication. And I need the history who submitted changes and when." Her eyebrows lifted slightly. Not surprise. More like amusement that I believed I could ask for that. "We can print what's currently in the file," she said. "Not currently," I replied. "The history." She stared at me through the glass, then glanced down at her keyboard. "That's not something we provide," she said. "Then tell me who can," I said. She pressed her lips together, a thin line. "Records." "Okay," I said. "I'd like to speak to records." She turned her head slightly, as if looking for someone in the office behind her, then nodded toward a hallway door. "Back there, second door." No escort. No badge check. Just a direction, like she wanted me out of her window. I walked down the hallway with my visitor sticker stuck to my chest like a warning label. The second door was half open. A woman with glasses sat inside, surrounded by file boxes and a printer that looked like it hated its job. "Hi," I said. "I'm requesting copies of my child's school records related to pickup authorization and contact updates." She didn't smile. But she didn't look annoyed either. She looked tired, which felt, for a second, like hope. "Name?" she asked. I told her. She typed. The printer woke up with a groan. "Here's the pickup authorization," she said, pulling a page from the tray. My stomach tightened as she slid it across the desk. The same header. The same section, authorized pickup, release, and the same empty space where my name should have been. "Is there a log?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "A revision log, something that shows when it was changed." She hesitated. Her eyes flicked to the door as if checking whether anyone could hear us. "We can see timestamps," she said quietly. "Okay," I said. "What does it say?" She clicked once, twice, then she read it out like she didn't want to. "Updated yesterday," she said. 10:12 a.m. Shirden Sharfen. The exact time I'd been on a work call, smiling into a camera while my life was being edited without me. Updated by who? I asked. Her mouth tightened. I can't give you, she started. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move closer. I just held my phone up and showed her the screenshots. My access changed at the same time, I said, so someone did more than update pickup. Someone removed me. She looked at the screenshots longer than she needed to. Then she exhaled, and the exhale sounded like a person choosing the smallest risk. The submission came in through the portal, she said softly. From the primary contact. Primary contact. I felt my pulse behind my eyes. So, I said slow, the primary contact Ryan submitted something yesterday at 10:12. She didn't confirm it directly. She didn't have to. She just said, that's what the system shows. My phone buzzed again. Ryan, where are you? Don't do this. Pickup is in 3 hours. 3 hours. My calendar chimed on my phone like it always did at 2:45, an annoying little sound I'd never cared about until now. A reminder I had set months ago. Pickup. The chime felt like a countdown. I slid the printed page into my bag like it was evidence in a trial. Can I get copies of everything you printed today? I asked. She nodded and pulled more sheets partial. Not the whole story, but enough to prove the story existed. When she handed them to me, I noticed something in the corner of one page, a tiny internal code, a form version number, and a box that said, processed by, with a blank line. Blank. Of course it was blank. Everything that mattered was always blank unless you knew where to look. I left records and walked back through the hallway. At the front office window, the navy cardigan woman watched me approach like she already knew I had been told something. I'm picking up my child today, I said. She blinked once. Ma'am, I'm picking up my child today, I repeated, quieter, sharper. And I want you to tell me right now in writing whether I'm allowed to. Actually minced it. She glanced down at her screen again, fingers tapping. The glass reflected my face back at me, pale, tight, determined. Then she looked up. We follow what's on record, she said. I held her gaze. And what's on record? Her mouth opened, then closed, like she was about to say it and realized saying it would make it real. My phone buzzed again. Ryan, if you show up at dismissal, you'll embarrass yourself. Stop making a scene. I stared at the words until they stopped looking like a text and started looking like a plan. Because he wasn't warning me. He was setting the stage. I tucked my phone away, papers pressing against my ribs inside my bag like a second heartbeat. I walked out of the office, into the cold air, into the parking lot where parents were already coming and going like nothing was wrong. And as my car door shut behind me, one thought thudded into place with terrifying simplicity. If the school wouldn't release my child to me today, what would my child think that meant? At 2:45, my phone chimed. The same gentle calendar sound it had made 100 times before, soft, harmless. Pick up. I sat in my car in the parking lot for a full minute after it rang, staring straight ahead like I could will my hands to stop shaking. The papers from records were in my bag on the passenger seat, edges peeking out, proof that didn't matter to the people who held the door. I watched families drift toward the front entrance in slow waves. Parents with coffee cups, grandmas with tote bags, a dad jogging because he was late and still smiling like it was fine. Normal. I pulled my hair back tighter, took one breath, then another, and walked. The pickup line snaked along the front sidewalk to the office window, glass again, always glass. The same counter, the same bell, the same slot at the bottom, where your kid's life could slide out if you were on record. I took my place at the end. Nobody talked much. It was that end-of-day hush, everyone tired, everyone ready to go home. A little boy a few feet ahead of me bounced on his toes, chanting his own name like it might summon a teacher faster. A mom in front of him checked her phone and sighed dramatically. I kept my eyes on the office window. Behind the glass, the navy cardigan woman moved with quick efficiency, pulling folders, scanning barcodes, sliding kids out one by one like a system that had never once considered how cruel it could be. When it was my turn, I stepped up to the counter. My visitor sticker was gone now. I had peeled it off in the car and stuck it to a receipt like it didn't deserve my sweater. I forced my face into something calm. Hi, I said. I'm here for pickup. Student name, and I gave it. Her fingers paused. Just a fraction. Then resumed, faster, like she could outrun what she was about to say. I saw her eyes flick to a corner of her screen. Then she looked up at me through the glass, and her voice dropped into that flat tone again, the one she used when she wanted to make it not personal. "Ma'am," she said, "you're not on the authorized list for pickup." End quote. For a second, I couldn't feel my fingers. I heard the words, but my body didn't accept them. "I'm their mother," I said low. "I'm here every day." She didn't blink. "We follow what's on record." I slid my bag onto the counter and pulled out the printed pickup authorization. I held it up, tapping the line where my child's name was printed at the top. "I was removed yesterday," I said, "without my consent. I have documentation from records. I'm requesting that you release my child to me." As is lost. Behind me, the line went quieter. Not loud quiet, witness quiet. The kind where people pretend not to hear but still hear everything. The navy cardigan woman's eyes dropped to the paper and then lifted back to my face, unimpressed. "I can't do that," she said. "Then call someone who can," I replied. A beat. She turned her head slightly and said something over her shoulder, words too low for me to catch. A chair scraped behind the wall, the sound of someone standing. Then Ms. Kershaw, the assistant principal, appeared at the side door of the office, stepping into view like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. She didn't come to the counter. She stood back, near the doorway, arms folded loosely, posture calm, like the calm was part of the plan. "Ma'am," she said, voice carrying just enough for the line to hear, "we can't release a student to anyone not listed for pickup." My cheeks burned, hot and immediate. I kept my voice steady by force. "I am listed. I was listed. This was changed without proper process." Miss Kershaw's expression softened, not toward me, toward the situation, toward the discomfort of having to witness it. "I understand this is frustrating," she said. "The way people say I understand you're upset when they don't mean I understand you're right. But we have custody-related instructions on file." My mouth went dry. "There is no custody order that removes me," I said. "There is no order that says I can't pick up my child." I weigh. She didn't answer that. She just said, "We're going to follow the record today." Today? Like it could be fixed tomorrow. And today didn't matter. A little girl further back in line asked her mom loudly, "Why is that lady mad?" The mom shushed her too fast. I could feel every eye trying not to be eyes. I lifted my phone and hit record without making a show of it. Not for drama, for proof. "I want it stated," I said, "that you are refusing to release my child to their mother." "Miss." Kershaw didn't flinch. "Ma'am, you can contact the district if you want to dispute the record." Dispute. Like my child was a billing error. The navy cardigan woman slid something under the window slot slowly, like she was doing me a favor. A laminated tag. Not mine. A stiff rectangle with the school logo and barcode. It stopped halfway under the slot, held there by her fingers like bait. "Is this yours?" she asked. My throat tightened. "No. Thanks for watching." She nodded once, like she had confirmed what she already knew. "Then you'll need to step aside," she said, "so we can continue releasing students." Step aside. The phrase landed like a shove. I didn't move at first, because if I stepped aside, it meant I was accepting it. It meant my child would walk out and not see me at the window. It meant my child would look for me like they always did, then not find me, and some adult would tell them a story about why. I swallowed hard enough to hurt. Then I stepped aside anyway, because I wouldn't give them the scene Ryan had warned me I'd embarrass myself with. I stood a few feet back, near a trophy case filled with dusty plaques. The line moved. Names called, kids released, laughter, backpack straps pulled over shoulders. Time kept being time. And then, like a cue in a play, Ryan's voice cut through the front doors. "Hey," he said, cheerful, like he had just arrived to pick up groceries. He walked in, holding his keys in one hand, his phone in the other, and on his wrist, the laminated pickup tag. It swung lightly as he walked, tapping his watch. Tap, tap, tap. Miss Kershaw's posture changed the way it had yesterday, subtle, immediate. "Mr. Carter," she said with a small nod. "You're here." "Yeah," he replied, just grabbing them. He didn't look at me, not even once. The navy cardigan woman smiled, actually smiled, and slid the lanyard scanner across the counter. "Go ahead," she said. Ryan held the tag up. The barcode flashed under the red light like a permission slip. Beep. The sound was small, but it changed everything. A moment later, the side door opened, and my child stepped out, backpack bouncing, face bright at first, then confused. Their eyes found me near the trophy case. The brightness flickered. They started toward me instinctively. And Miss Kershaw's hand moved gentle, guiding, redirecting them toward Ryan like it was the most natural thing in the world. My child hesitated, looked at Ryan, looked at me. I held my hands still at my sides, forcing myself not to reach. Ryan crouched and opened his arms. "Hey, buddy," he said warmly. "Come on, we're good." My child walked into his hug, like their body was trying to choose the safest option. Ryan stood, zipped the backpack strap higher on their shoulder, and took their hand. Only then did he glance at me quick and sideways like you glance at something you've already moved out of the way. "See?" he murmured. "Just for me. Routine." Then he led my child out through the doors. And I stayed inside the building, surrounded by parents who suddenly had somewhere else to look. When the last kid was released and the line dissolved, my phone buzzed. A voicemail notification. School office. I hit play with my thumb trembling. The navy cardigan woman's voice filled my car a minute later when I sat there alone in the parking lot, staring at the steering wheel. "Hello," the voicemail said. "This is the front office calling to document that you are not on the authorized list for pickup. Please do not attempt to pick up the student again unless you are added back to the record." Document. I replayed it once. Then again, because if they were willing to say it like that, cold, official, recorded, then someone had made them feel justified, and I knew exactly who. I didn't sleep. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, while my brain replayed the same 3 sounds on loop. The calendar chime, the scanner beep, and my child's footsteps being redirected away from me. At 5:58 a.m., I stopped pretending rest was possible and got up. I didn't cry in the shower. I didn't stare at my phone waiting for a message that would make this make sense. I didn't rehearse speeches. I packed a folder. Not a cute folder, not a mom folder. A plain, stiff one with tabs I labeled in black marker. Pickup, portal, emails, voicemail, timeline. I printed the screenshots. I printed the forwarded email with the CC list and the line that mattered. Per Dad's request, effective immediately. I printed the voicemail transcription my phone generated like it was proud of how well it understood humiliation. Then I drove back to the school. The front office was quieter than yesterday, but the glass window was the same, perfectly clean, perfectly dividing. The woman in the navy cardigan looked up when I pressed the bell, and I saw it in her face immediately. She recognized me. "Ma'am," she said, already tired. I set my folder on the counter. "I'm not here to argue," I said. Her eyebrows lifted a fraction, like she didn't believe me. "I'm here for documentation," I continued. "I need 3 things." I held up one finger. The written policy for pickup authorization changes. A second finger, the complete contact and pickup history for my child's file who submitted changes and when. A third finger, a copy of any custody-related instructions you claim are on file. The words came out steady, not begging, not angry. Administrative. The navy cardigan woman's eyes flicked down to my fingers like she wished I would put my hands away. "We don't provide," she began. "I'm requesting." I corrected, calmly. "In writing, if you can't provide it." Her mouth tightened. She glanced at her monitor, then back up, like she was deciding how to handle a parent who wasn't giving her an emotion to manage. "One moment," she said. She turned, disappeared into the back. I waited. Behind me, a dad tapped his foot. A little girl in a puffy jacket swung her legs on a chair and hummed, making up a tune to fill the silence. The printer whirred somewhere. Paper slid. Someone stapled. Time kept being time. When the navy cardigan woman returned, she didn't have a policy packet. She had a single sheet of paper, thin, generic, the kind schools print when they want to look helpful without promising anything. She slid it under the slot. Pickup procedures. General. General. No mention of portal submissions. No mention of audit logs. No mention of how a parent disappears. I didn't touch it yet. "And the history?" I asked. "That's not something we give out," she said, voice flattening again. "We can provide what's currently in the record." "I need the revision log," I replied. She exhaled through her nose. "It's not a revision log, it's a system update." "Then provide the system update details," I said. "Who, when, what?" Her eyes shifted slightly to the side, toward the hallway, like she was looking for backup. "Miss Halverson is available," she said, and it sounded like, "Let's let the counselor calm you down." "Fine," I said. "Bring her out." A minute later, Miss Halverson appeared. She had the same gentle face as before, but today the gentleness looked like a uniform. "Hi," she said softly, like she was entering a room where someone might break. I didn't give her that room. "Hi," I answered. "I'm requesting documentation. Specifically, the custody-related instructions you referenced yesterday, and the record of changes made to pickup authorization and contact access." Her smile faltered for half a second, then reassembled. "I hear you," she said. "We want to keep things low conflict." Low conflict. The exact phrase from the draft. I held her eyes. "I'm not creating conflict. I'm requesting copies." She nodded slowly, like she was soothing a child. "The issue is that there have been concerns about heightened emotions at dismissal." There it was. The wording. My husband's wording. The same shape as the email. Reliability, dismissal, concerns. I didn't react the way she expected. I didn't defend myself. I didn't list the 100 calm pickups I had done. I simply said, "Who documented that concern?" Her eyes blinked once, quickly. "We documented what was reported." "By who?" I repeated. She glanced past me, toward the waiting area, like witnesses were part of the pressure. "Dad shared concerns," she said, "and we have to follow the plan we have on file." "Then I need the plan," I replied. "We can provide a summary," she said again. Same word as yesterday, like it was a magic workaround. "I'm not accepting summaries," I said. That landed. It didn't make her angry. It made her switch modes. "Okay," she said, voice turning slightly colder. "If you want full records, you'll need to submit a formal request to the district." "Great," I said. "Give me the form." She hesitated, and I saw the tiny miscalculation in her face. She had expected me to crumble, not to move forward. "I can print you the information," she said. "Please do," I replied. She disappeared into the hallway. While she was gone, I noticed the visitor sign-in clipboard sitting on a side counter near the door, unattended. The page was open. The ink was fresh. I didn't touch it. I just looked. There it was again, like yesterday had tattooed itself into today. Ryan Carter, 742. Reason. Records update. So it wasn't just my paranoia. They had labeled it. They had normalized it. They had given his actions a neat little category so nobody had to think too hard about what it meant. I pulled my phone up and took a photo from where I stood, framing only the line I needed. No drama. No confrontation. Just documentation. "Miss." Halvorsen came back with a thin stack of papers and slid them under the slot. A district request sheet. A generic policy flyer. A meeting summary that said nothing. And one page that mattered because of what it didn't say. A contact list printout showing only Ryan. No change history. No signatures. No explanation. A clean, rewritten version of my child's life. I placed everything into my folder, one page at a time, smoothing the edges. "Miss." Halvorsen watched me like she couldn't decide whether to be relieved or uneasy. "Is there anything else you need today?" she asked gently. I zipped the folder shut. "Yes," I said. Both women stiffened slightly, ready. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't step closer. I didn't ask for permission. "I need you to note," I said evenly, "that I requested the full history and you declined to provide it. I need that noted in writing." The navy cardigan woman opened her mouth. "Miss." Halvorsen spoke first. "We can't." "Okay," I said, cutting in softly. "Then I will note it." I turned and walked out. No argument, no final speech. Just the sound of my boots on the tile, the front door opening, cold air hitting my face. In the parking lot, my phone chimed again, another calendar alert, useless and cheerful. I didn't look at it. I sat in my car, opened my folder on the passenger seat, and laid the papers out like a map. General policy. Summary. Contact list. Voicemail. Email. A story built out of what they would admit. And then, at the center of it all, the thing I still didn't have. The form history. The audit trail. The piece that would show, cleanly, in their own system, exactly how my name disappeared. I started a new email draft to the district records office and typed the subject line slowly, like a vow. Request for complete student record. Change history. Contact and pickup authorization. Then I stopped, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Because if I pulled the history the right way, I wouldn't just know it happened. I'd know who processed it, what he submitted, and whether the school had helped him do it. I sent the district email at 9:17 a.m. Not from my phone, not from the kitchen while my coffee went cold. From my laptop, at the dining table, with my folder open like a courtroom. I attached nothing. I didn't explain with emotion. I wrote it the way systems respect, clean, numbered, impossible to misunderstand. Complete contact history for student record. Complete pickup authorization, change history. Copies of any custody-related instructions on file S. Names. Titles of staff who processed any changes on 10:12 a.m. yesterday. Then I hit send and watched the little paper airplane icon disappear like a prayer I didn't trust. An automatic reply came back within seconds. Your request has been received. Ticket #47381. I stared at the number until it burned into my brain. Then I saved it in 3 places, screenshotted it, forwarded it to myself, wrote it on the inside cover of my folder in black ink. Because if I had learned anything in the last 48 hours, it was this. If it isn't written down, it didn't happen. My phone buzzed almost immediately. Ryan, we need to talk. Stop escalating. They're watching you. I didn't answer. The phrase "they're watching you" was supposed to scare me into silence. Instead, it did the opposite. Because it confirmed what I had already felt in the office. He wasn't just changing paperwork. He was building a story about me. And stories spread faster than truth when the truth doesn't have receipts. I opened a new note on my phone and titled it, Timeline. Then I wrote the facts like a detective who didn't care how it sounded, only whether it was real. Parent meeting. Teacher said, "Thanks for updating the pickup access." End quote. Same day. Assistant principal called his name. He initialed. Pickup tag issued. Portal. My permissions switched to view only. Notifications off. Office. Only one authorized parent on file. Email. Per dad's request. Effective immediately. Meeting. Safety and transition plan referenced. I was excluded. Records. Timestamp read aloud 10:12 a.m. Pickup line. Release denied. Voicemail left to document I'm not authorized. Underneath each bullet, I added names. Miss Dorsey. Miss Halvorsen. Miss Kershaw. Navy cardigan woman. Until I learned her name. Records woman with glasses. I added the time my calendar chimed. Ardern Sishawufen. I added the exact words Ryan kept using. Routine update. I didn't write my feelings. I wrote the pattern. When the list was done, my chest felt different. Not lighter, not calm, but steadier. Like I had finally stopped trying to win an argument and started building a file. At 11:03, I drove to an office across town with a brass plaque that read Family Law and a waiting room that smelled like lemon cleaner and stress. The receptionist didn't ask why I was there with my folder clutched tight. She just handed me a clipboard and a pen that didn't work until I scribbled hard enough to make it. When the attorney came out, he wasn't dramatic. No booming voice, no promises. He just looked tired in the way people get when they've seen the same story too many times. He introduced himself, sat down and said, "Tell me what happened." So I did. Not like a wife, not like a mother begging, like a person describing an event that had occurred. When I finished, he didn't gasp. He didn't say, "That's illegal," like television. He said something worse because it was true. Schools follow what's on file, he told me, and a manipulative person knows how to weaponize a file. I stared at him. So what do I do? He held up a hand, gentle but firm. You don't argue with the front office. You don't try to win with your voice. You win with the record. He opened my folder and flipped through the printout slowly, pausing at the email thread. This line, he said, tapping per dad's request, is useful. He moved to the voicemail transcription. This is useful. Then he pointed at my screenshot of view-only permissions. This is useful. His finger stopped at the blank spots on the forms, no processed by, no clear trail. What you need, he said, is the audit trail. The change history, the system log. That's where the truth hides when people stop writing names. I felt my throat tighten. The school won't give it to me. Then you go above the school, he said. District, written request, ticket numbers, follow-up deadlines, and you document every time you're denied. I nodded, too quickly. He leaned back in his chair and looked at me like he was deciding how to say the next part without setting me on fire. And, he added, you stay boring. Boring? I repeated. He nodded once. No scenes, no texts, no yelling in the office. nothing they can clip out and call heightened emotions. You stay boring, and you let the paperwork do the damage. When I walked out, the air felt colder than it had all week. But my hands weren't shaking anymore. In the parking lot, my phone buzzed again. "Ryan, I'm picking up today. Don't make this worse." I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my calendar and looked at the recurring reminder I'd set months ago, 2:45 p.m., the one that had been mine until he turned it into a weapon. I tapped edit, and for the first time, I didn't change the time. I changed the label. From pickup to document pickup. Then I added a note under it. Bring folder. Record if denied. Ask for names. Don't talk to Ryan. At 1:26, the district replied, not the full records, not the audit trail, but something that made my stomach flip anyway. A short email, Polita, professional, and absolutely not neutral. We are reviewing your request. Please confirm whether there is a court order affecting parental access on file. If so, provide a copy. If not, we will need to verify the basis for the restriction. Verify the basis. I read that line twice. Then I stared at the word basis like it was a trapdoor opening under someone else. Because if the district was asking for the basis, it meant the school had claimed they had one. And if they couldn't produce it, then routine update wasn't just cruel. It was a lie that had finally reached someone who didn't know Ryan's smile. I copied the email into my folder, printed it, slid it behind the timeline tab. And as I closed the folder, my phone chimed again, 2:45 approaching, like a metronome. Outside, the day kept moving like nothing was happening. But now I had a ticket number, a timeline, and a district email that didn't say, "We follow what's on record." It said, "We need to verify." And I knew what that meant. The next time Ryan tried to walk into that building with his laminated tag and his calm voice, someone was going to ask him to show what he used to erase me. The district email came back at 8:11 the next morning with an attachment. Not a friendly PDF, not a brochure, a plain export with a title that made my stomach drop and settle at the same time. Student Information System Change, History Contacts, Release Authorization. For a full second, I just stared at the file name like it might vanish if I touched it. Then I opened it. It was a table. Gray lines, black text, no opinions. And there it was, what the front office had pretended didn't exist. A log. A trail. A record that didn't care how calm Ryan's voice was. I scrolled slowly, reading each line the way you read an autopsy. 10:12 a.m. Action. Edit authorized pickup. Release. Change. Removed secondary guardian authorization. Submitted via parent portal. Submitted by R. Carter at parent account. Processed by Smedina school staff user. I read it twice. Then a third time. My name wasn't in that line at all, but I could feel its secondary guardian like a label slapped on my forehead while I wasn't looking. My thumb hovered over the processed by field. His Medina. I didn't know her name, but my body did. Navy cardigan. Flat voice. The slot under the glass. The way she'd smiled when Ryan scanned his tag. I scrolled further down. Another entry. 10:2440 am. Action. Permissions. Update parent portal. Change. Set parent to view only. Notifications off. Processed by Smedina. My throat tightened so fast it felt like my body had grabbed me by the collar. So it wasn't just Ryan submitting something. Someone behind that glass had taken it and made it true. I printed the attachment immediately, 2 copies. One for my folder. One for the part of me that still couldn't believe this was real unless I could hold it. My phone buzzed while the printer warmed up. Ryan, you're not going to like what happens if you keep pushing. I didn't answer. The printed pages slid out, warm and sharp at the edges. I placed them under the timeline tab like I was laying a weapon down carefully. Then I took out my phone and opened the text thread with Ryan. Scrolled back. Found the line from earlier in the week, the one he had meant as control. I already fixed it with the school. Don't go down there. I screenshotted it. Then the next one. Stop going to the office. You're making it harder. Screenshot. Then the one that had turned my stomach at the pickup line. If you show up at dismissal, you'll embarrass yourself. Screenshot. I printed those too. The evidence was starting to stack into something that didn't need my voice at all. At 9:02, I called the district number at the bottom of the email. A recorded voice said, "This call may be monitored or recorded for quality purposes." Even one, "Fine, let it be recorded." A woman answered on the third ring. "District Student Services, this is Miss Nguyen." "Hi," I said. "My name is," and I gave it. "I received a change history export this morning. I need to confirm what it means." Her tone stayed professional, but there was a shift, a small one, like she had already read my ticket. "Okay," she said. "I see your request." "I'm looking at an entry," I continued, keeping my voice even. "It says the pickup authorization change was submitted through the parent portal by Ryan Carter's account at 10:12 a.m. and processed by a school staff user, Smedina. Can you confirm that's accurate?" There was a click of a keyboard. Then, with the careful cadence of someone reading a fact into a record, she said, "Yes, that's what the system shows." "And Smedina is?" I asked. Another click. "That appears to be Sandra Medina," she replied. "Front office staff." End quote. My hand tightened around my pen. Sandra Medina. Navy Cardigan finally had a name. "So," I said, still calm, "a staff member processed a request that removed the child's mother from authorized pickup and reduced portal permissions." "Yes," Miss Nguyen said again, and then she added, "We're verifying the basis for that restriction because the record does not indicate an attached court order." Basis. There was that word again. "I want to be clear," I said. "There is no court order that removes me." "I understand," she replied. "That's part of what we're reviewing." "Okay," I said, and my voice stayed steady even though my chest felt like it was full of glass. "What happens now?" Miss Nguyen paused the way people pause when they're deciding whether to say something out loud that will change the temperature in your life. "We're scheduling an administrative review," she said. "We'll have district representation and school administration present. Both parents will be invited." Invited. Like you could RSVP to being erased. "When?" I asked. "I can send the notice today," she replied. "Likely within the next 48 hours. Until then, the school is instructed not to make further changes and to maintain a neutral communication approach." Natural communication. I almost laughed, but it would have sounded like something they could call heightened. "Please send it in writing," I said. "I will," she replied. "And ma'am." "Yes?" Her voice softened, just a fraction, and for the first time in days, it sounded like an actual human voice, not a script. "If you experience another denial at pickup, please email us immediately with the date and time," she said. "We need it documented." Documented. Now they wanted it documented. "Thank you," I said. I hung up and sat very still at my dining table, staring at the printed log, because the thing I'd been chasing, the truth hiding in the blank spaces, was right there in black and white. Not routine. Not procedures. Names. Times. Actions. And the part that Ryan couldn't charm his way out of. Processed by school staff. My phone buzzed again. "Ryan, so you went to the district?" Unbelievable. Then, a minute later, "You're going to regret turning this into a thing." I didn't answer. I opened my calendar and added a new recurring reminder under 2:45. Not for pickup. For me. Don't respond to threats. Save them. At 11:27, my email pinged. From the district. Subject. Administrative review, parental access, and student release authorization. Date, time, scheduled. Location, District Office Conference, Room B. Attendees, District Student Services, School Administration, Parents, Guardians. I read the word parents twice. Plural. Finally. And then I scrolled to the last line. Please be prepared to provide any relevant legal documentation. I stared at it until the room felt too quiet. Because I didn't need legal documentation to prove I was a parent. Ryan needed legal documentation to prove I wasn't. And if he didn't have it, then the next time he said, routine update in a room full of people, someone was going to ask him, out loud, to show what he used to erase me. The district office conference room didn't look like a place where someone's life gets rearranged. Beige walls, a long table with a seam down the middle, a pitcher of water sweating onto a stack of paper cups like even the plastic was anxious. A sign on the door read Conference Room B in black letters. Inside, they had arranged the chairs like they were hosting a calm conversation, not an undoing. Miss Nguyen sat at the head of the table with a laptop open and a thin file folder placed perfectly square in front of her. On her right was the principal. On her left was Miss. Halverson, the counselor, hands folded like she was in church. And at the far end, near the door, Sandra Medina, navy cardigan, the glass window woman. She held a pen and a notepad she wasn't writing on. Her mouth was set in the same line I'd seen behind the window, except without the glass, she looked smaller. More human. Not kinder. Just exposed. Ryan walked in like he belonged there. He had a folder too, thicker than mine, tabbed, organized, a performance of preparedness. He smiled at Miss Nguyen. "Hi, thanks for seeing us. And if you have a..." He didn't look at me until I sat, until I opened my folder, until he had the room. Then he glanced over and gave me the same calm expression he'd used all week. See? Routine. Miss Nguyen cleared her throat. "Thank you all for coming. This administrative review is to address parental access and student release authorization changes that were processed through the school." She looked at Ryan first. "Mr. Carter." The way she said it wasn't friendly. It wasn't hostile either. It was just formal. A name read into record. "Yes," Ryan said, sitting back. "Look, I'm just trying to keep things consistent for our child." Miss Nguyen nodded like she'd heard that sentence 1,000 times. "You submitted a request through the parent portal that removed Parent 2 from pickup authorization and changed Parent 2's portal permissions. Correct?" Ryan didn't hesitate. "Yes." Sandra Medina's eyes flicked down. Miss Nguyen kept going. "Do you have a court order or legal documentation that restricts Parent 2's access?" Ryan smiled slightly, like the question was silly. "There are concerns," he said. "We've had some issues at dismissal. Heightened emotions. I didn't want our child in the middle of that." Miss Halverson nodded once, like she recognized the phrase. I didn't react. I didn't roll my eyes. I didn't defend myself. I opened my folder and slid it an inch forward. Boring. The attorney's word echoed in my head like a rule. Miss Nguyen's gaze stayed on Ryan. "Concerns are not a court order. Do you have documentation that restricts the other parent?" Ryan's jaw tightened. "I spoke with counsel." The principal shifted in her chair. A small movement. A discomfort movement. Miss Nguyen didn't move. "That's not what I asked. Do you have a court order?" Ryan's eyes flicked to the principal, then to Sandra, then back to Miss Nguyen. "No," he said, slower. "Not a formal order that..." "Okay," Miss Nguyen interrupted, gentle but firm. "Then we need to address why this restriction was processed." She clicked on her laptop and turned the screen slightly so the room could see the same gray line table I had printed at home. "The district exported the change history," she said. "I'm going to read the relevant entries into the record." Into the record. She scrolled with one finger, steady, not dramatic. "Entry 1, she said. "Date, time, 10:12 a.m. Action, edit authorized pickup. Release. Change, removed secondary guardian authorization. Submitted via parent portal. Submitted by R. Carter parent account." Ryan's face didn't change, like he could still spin this. Miss Nguyen continued. "Processed by Smedina school staff user." Sandra Medina's pen twitched. Not a full flinch, just a muscle remembering it was attached to a consequence. The principal's eyes slid toward Sandra, then away. Miss Nguyen read the next line without pause. Entry 2, time, 10:14 a.m. Action, permissions update parent portal. Change, set parent 2 to view only. Notifications off. Processed by Smedina. Silence settled over the table, thick and clean. Not the kind of silence where people don't understand. The kind where everyone understands too much at once. Ryan's smile cracked, just a hairline fracture at the corner of his mouth. Miss Nguyen closed the laptop halfway, like she didn't need the screen anymore. "Mr. Carter," she said again. His name, twice. Different now. "Yes?" he answered, a little sharper. "Without an order," she said. "You do not have unilateral authority to remove the other parent from pickup authorization or portal communication. That's not a safety plan. That's a restriction." Ryan leaned forward slightly. "I didn't remove her as a parent. You removed her access," Miss Nguyen corrected, still calm. "And you did it using a system the school trusted." She turned her head toward Sandra Medina. "Miss Medina, can you explain the basis for processing this request?" Sandra swallowed. Her eyes flicked to the principal like she wanted someone else to answer for her. "We," she started, then stopped, then tried again. We received a submission through the portal. It listed Mr. Carter as the primary contact. Did you request a court order? Miss Nguyen asked. Sandra's cheeks colored. No. Did you verify custody-related instructions? Miss Nguyen pressed. Sandra's voice went smaller. We had notes about concerns. Ryan's fingers tapped his folder once, hard enough to make a soft thud. Miss Nguyen's eyes didn't leave Sandra. Notes are not a restriction. A court order is. If there was no order, the school should not have processed a removal. The district is correcting this immediately. The principal's throat bobbed as she swallowed. Miss Halverson's hands tightened, then relaxed. Ryan's head turned toward me for the first time like he was actually seeing me as a person in the room. Are you trying to say I did something wrong by protecting my child? He asked, voice rising just enough to sound righteous. Miss Nguyen didn't look at me, didn't invite me to argue. She kept it where it belonged on paper. I'm saying, she replied, you used the system to create an unauthorized restriction, and the school processed it without proper basis. And Enterbald. Then she reached into her own folder and pulled out a one-page directive, crisp, already printed. We're issuing corrective instructions today, she said, sliding the paper to the center of the table. Effective immediately. Both parents will be restored as authorized contacts and authorized pickup. All communication will include both parent emails on file, unless there is an order stating otherwise. Any future changes to release authorization require district review with documentation. It is nobated. Ryan stared at the paper like it had insulted him. Miss Nguyen kept her voice even. Do you understand? Ryan didn't answer. The room waited. The kind of waiting that feels like a spotlight. Sandra Medina looked down at her notepad like she wished she could disappear into a line of handwriting. The principal's eyes fixed on the directive, as if reading it hard enough would erase the moment. Finally, Ryan said, "This is ridiculous." Miss Nguyen nodded once. Noted. A word that turns tantrums into nothing. She turned to me, and it was the first time in the entire week an authority figure looked at me like I belonged in the file. "Ma'am," she said, "you will receive the updated confirmation from the school today. If you experience any denial going forward, you email this office with the date and time." I nodded. That was all. No speech, no vindication performance. Quiet. Ryan pushed his chair back. So what, she just gets to show up and take the child? Miss Nguyen didn't flinch. Both parents are authorized. Release will follow documented schedules and the directive, not verbal claims, not routine updates. Documented procedure. Ryan's jaw worked like he was chewing something bitter. And in that moment, in that bland conference room with paper cups and beige walls, his power did something I could almost feel. It drained out of the air. Not because anyone yelled, because the record had spoken, out loud, in front of witnesses who didn't care how charming he sounded. When the meeting ended, the principal murmured something about reviewing internal processes. Miss Halverson offered me a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Sandra Medina left quickly, shoulders hunched, cardigan pulled close like armor that had failed. Ryan walked past me toward the door. He didn't threaten me. He didn't smile. He didn't say routine again. He just said, through his teeth, like the words were a cost he couldn't afford, "You're really going to do this?" I didn't answer. I checked my phone. 2:45 p.m. The calendar entry sat there like it always had. And for the first time, it didn't feel like a countdown to humiliation. It felt like a schedule the system had to follow. The email from the school came at 1:18 p.m. No greeting, no warmth, no, "We apologize for the inconvenience." Well, Cambode. Just a subject line that looked like it had been copied from a template. Updated authorization confirmation. The body was 4 sentences long. Both parents are listed as authorized contacts. Both parents are listed as authorized pickup. Portal notifications have been restored. All future changes require district review. At the bottom, there was a PDF attachment. I opened it and stared at my own name in the same font they'd used to erase it. Authorized pickup, release. Ryan Carter. My name. No explanation for how it disappeared. Just the fact that it was back. Like the week had been a clerical hiccup instead of a full-body lesson in how easily someone can rewrite you if they're allowed to submit the form. My phone chimed at 2:45. The sound was soft, familiar, the same chime that had turned my stomach into a knot for days. I didn't breathe through it. I didn't brace. I stood up, picked up my folder, and walked to the car. At the school, the pickup line looked exactly the same as it always had, parents drifting into place, kids' names being called, the glass window reflecting everyone back at themselves. The only difference was inside my bag. A printed directive from the district. A change history log with names and times. And the confirmation sheet with my name typed in black. I took my place in line and kept my eyes forward. No scanning for Ryan's car. No rehearsing what I would say if he tried to corner me. Boring. When I reached the front, Sandra Medina was behind the glass. Navy cardigan. Same hair, same mouth line, but her posture was different, stiffer, like she'd been asked to remember she was accountable to more than the window. Her eyes flicked up and then down again. "Student name?" she asked. I gave it. Her fingers moved across the keyboard. Click, click. Then she paused. Not because she couldn't find the record. Because she had found it. She glanced up through the glass and said, "Okay. Can I see your ID, please? Please." The word was small, but it was there. I slid my ID under the slot without drama. She checked it, compared it to the screen, returned it. Then she reached for a drawer, pulled out a laminated tag on a lanyard, and held it up. My stomach tightened anyway because plastic had become a weapon in my mind. But this time, the name printed beneath the barcode was mine. She slid it halfway under the slot. "Here you go," she said. No smile, no apology, just procedure. Behind me, the line kept moving. Parents shifted. A dad cleared his throat. Someone's toddler whined, and the mother bounced her gently like the world hadn't changed. I looped the lanyard around my wrist and stepped back to the release area. The side door opened. My child appeared with their backpack bouncing, cheeks pink from the cold, eyes scanning the room the way they always did. They saw me and stopped. For a half second, they didn't run. They looked like their body was checking whether it was safe to choose. I held my face steady. I didn't wave too big. I didn't rush forward. I just stood there like I belonged. Then my child's shoulders softened. They ran. Their arms hit my waist hard enough to knock the air out of me, and I wrapped them up like I had been holding my arms still all week just to save this moment. I thought they started, then stopped. "I'm here," I said, simple. "It's my day." My child looked up at me, eyebrows pulled together. "Daddy said," I didn't let the sentence finish. Not because I wanted to silence them, because I didn't want to put them back in the middle. "We're going home," I said, and kissed the top of their head. "Okay?" They nodded, small and relieved, like permission had finally returned. We walked toward the doors together, and that's when Ryan appeared. Not bursting in, not loud, just stepping into the front entrance as if he had timed it to be seen. He held his keys loosely, phone in hand, the confidence of someone who had won this week and didn't understand he had already lost it on paper. His eyes flicked to the lanyard on my wrist, then to our child's hand in mine. His jaw tightened. "Hey," he said, voice easy. "Too easy. I'm here for pickup." Sandra Medina looked up from behind the glass. She didn't smile this time. "Hi, Mr. Carter," she said. Ryan's face relaxed a fraction, like he expected the world to return to its usual shape. Sandra's fingers tapped once, slow. Then she said, clearly, not cruelly, just loud enough for the people in line to hear without leaning in, "Today is Mom's release day according to the schedule on file." The words landed with a quiet finality. Schedule on file. Not routine update. Not concerns. Not primary contact. Schedule. Ryan's eyes flashed. He stepped closer to the window. "That's not..." Sandra lifted a hand slightly, the way you stop someone before they build a scene. "We have district instructions," she said. "Release follows the documented schedule." Ryan's gaze snapped to me, sharp and full of the thing he'd been feeding everyone else about me. Like, he was waiting for me to react, to argue, to prove heightened emotions. I didn't look back. I adjusted my grip on my child's hand and kept walking. A mom in line watched, eyes wide for a beat, then quickly looked away. A dad pretended to check his phone. Witness quiet again, except this time, I wasn't the one being pushed out of the story. Ryan's voice cut after me. Lower now. "This is ridiculous." I didn't turn. My child squeezed my hand tighter. Outside, the air was cold and clean. We walked to my car like we'd done 100 times before. Backpack in the back seat. Seatbelt clicked. Routine. I got into the driver's seat and set my hands on the wheel. My phone lit up with the calendar reminder still open, 2:45 p.m. The label I'd changed. Document pickup. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I didn't text anyone the victory. I just stared at the screen for one steady breath, then locked it and put the phone face down like a boundary. Object equals calendar entry. Action equals she follows routine without eye contact. Consequence equals power shifts through procedure. As I pulled out of the parking lot, my child leaned forward between the seats and asked, small, careful, "Are you going to be here tomorrow too?" I kept my eyes on the road. "I'm always here," I said, "and the school has to follow what's written." In the rearview mirror, I saw the front doors of the school shrink behind us, glass and posters and rules. Not softer, not kinder, just no longer his to rewrite alone.